Welcome to this video. Today we are discussing how your nervous system is actually the bottleneck in your business, and not your nervous system being something wrong about you, but rather your current definitions of safety are dictating the level of income that you're achieving in your coaching business. Now, like I say in other videos, this one is not for beginners either. Okay, so if you're a beginner, if you're like at the very, very early stages of building your business, this might not necessarily be valuable to you. But what I'm talking about today is something that I've experienced personally. When I started my own coaching business, and for the first few years, learning the strategy, implementing, I started recognizing that, okay, there is a level of inhibition, there's a level of blocks happening in my business, not necessarily due to the strategy that I'm implementing, but due to my emotional state. Now, we know this. There's a lot of mindset talk around mindset is a big part of success. But I want to go deeper with you today so that you actually understand what is going on and how it's impacting your life and your business and the amount of money you make, okay? And a lot of it has to do with your state, and a lot of it has to do with your nervous system, with your definitions of what is safe. Most of it is unconscious as well, which means you might not recognize how you're sabotaging. You might not recognize how you're literally holding yourself back from doing the stuff that actually produces result. And we're gonna break it down. So the way that I wanna present this to you is think about the beginning stages. When you close your eyes and think about the end outcome that we're trying to achieve, right? If there's a particular number in your mind, think of that number. And think of the feeling. How would you feel when you achieve that goal? How would you feel when you are at that particular income level? How would your life look like? How would your experience of reality look like when you finally get to that promised land? To me, when I first started, I started it for freedom. Because, okay, I wanted to be free. I wanted to experience a sense of peace. I wanted to be able to get whatever I want. And when I would imagine it, there was this sense of ease within my body. I'd imagine myself sitting there having a drink at the beach or traveling around, and there was no stress. So there was this moving away from stress and anxiety and maybe feeling overwhelmed to getting to a point where I would feel very peaceful and very at ease and in flow with life and running a business that I genuinely enjoyed, making an impact, hosting retreats. You know, the vision in my mind was accompanied with a very particular emotional signature that came with it. But I noticed that as my business grew and all the way up to $60,000 a month, I was not experiencing that in my reality, right? I thought that as the numbers grew, my emotional experience would change, but it didn't. And you know, in my mind, I'm like, okay, I need to keep pushing and sacrificing and working harder. You know, that's part of the process and that's all good. And part of that is true, right? But if you think about yourself right now, what your daily existence feels like compared to the end outcome in mind, there's a gap. There is a misalignment, right? I'm working towards something that I want to bring me peace, joy, fulfillment, impact, flow, this version of reality where things are just flowing. And there's a very, very specific emotional signature to that. Yet, my daily existence feels nowhere like that. There is stress, there is anxiety, there is scarcity. How am I going to get my next client? There's consistently needing to be turned on in the business because of the fear that if I'm not, something is going to go wrong and my income will dip and I'm going to have inconsistent months. And the truth is, that is true. It's not necessarily only emotional or psychological. There is a strategic component to it where, like, the way you're currently building things, if you were to stop and take a step back, there would be an income dip. What I'm trying to show you here is the misalignment between the values that you have in your business, the values why you started, the values that are deeply ingrained in you, the kind of reality that you're trying to create versus the path that you are taking. And we take this path not because this is the path that we want to take, but because we picked up at certain stages in the process, the mentors we're attracted to, the coaches we listen to, they were in alignment with what felt right. And what feels right is usually dependent on your definitions of safety, right? If you picked up early on that the way you create success is by very, very hard work, then if you see somebody doing it in a different way that doesn't align with that belief, you disregard them, right? You don't listen to them. You listen to the person that is telling you to build in a particular way. So you're reinforcing, despite you working hard, the echo chambers that you create for yourself, they reinforce the idea and the reality that you have already conditioned into your nervous system. Because what the nervous system is essentially is that it's a filtration process. It filters the infinite into something finite, the infinite versions of reality that could exist. The nervous system is a filtration system so that the mind could understand what is going on. We're taking the infinite, turning it into something finite, so we're only taking a small segment of it. And so the filter remains the same. Despite the strategy externally, the colors in which you see reality from, the emotional signature that your reality has, remains the same, despite the actions that you take. And so what ends up happening is that once you start visualizing a different reality, where the emotional signature is different, and now you're taking action from the current emotional signature, from the current way of living, from the current beliefs that you have, there's going to be a dissonance there, right? And that is why you might get to a point where you start resenting building the business. Like, yeah, you're doing it. You have to force and be disciplined, and like there's a lot of pushing involved because there is a rebellion in you telling you we don't want to do this. And you're like, no, I know I need to do this to get to my goals. And the thing is, this attachment to a particular way of how you should build your business, how you should approach making money, how you should grow the business, how you should market, how you should create content, how you should do things, are the things that are keeping you in your current reality. And the thing is, it's very difficult to overcome, because the moment you try to overcome it, what's going to happen is that you're going to feel unsafe, because now you're going into a different version of reality. You're tapping into a different emotional signature, and that feels scary. Then the what ifs come in. So when I speak about like tapping into your potential, or recognizing yourself, or experiencing a new version of reality, and some people watching this might be into manifestation and might be into the identity shifting space. And you know that a lot of it is about feeling the way you want to feel before that it happens, right? Like trying to embody the experience before it happens. Essentially what that means, if you go really, really deep, is there is a deconditioning process and changing the filter from which your nervous system experiences reality. Shifting from a place of things are supposed to be a particular way, releasing the shoulds, and getting to a point where the way you perceive reality is drastically different. And then because that filter changes, you access different parts of your mind, you access different parts of your genius, and something entirely different comes out. Now, you might still use a very similar strategy to what you used before, but now the emotional signature from which the strategy is being implemented is very different. The way your mind interprets what's going on is very different, and so results change dramatically. And this is something that I'm starting to experience as well, because I had a particular standard for what is easy for me to make in terms of money, and now the standard is going up because I'm shifting the way I perceive reality. And so what I'm also noticing happening is that I'm genuinely barely working at the moment, but money flows to me in very interesting ways that is very, very difficult to explain. And it's so interesting to me because it's just a change in my definitions of safety, and that impacts my emotional signature, my filtration system of the infinite to the finite. So I'm literally choosing a different segment of the infinite to interpret, because you get to choose, right? And that is a very, very important conversation to have, because a lot of the times what happens is that you get to a point where like you really, really want to grow, but this perspective is not introduced to you. And so you keep running in circles. You're like, I really want to grow. I want to get to 50K a month. I want to get to 100K a month. But it's like, I get that. But there is, if you keep trying to grow horizontally, which means like I'm trying to expand my skills, you're going to run in circles. And then you're going to get to a point where, because you're running in circles and your income is not going to grow, you reinforce the same idea that success is difficult. And it's like, no, but you're taking the wrong path. I hope this is resonating with you. I'm introducing those concepts because these are things that I'm not very long ago I'm starting to realize, but I'm also noticing the real world impact they're having on tangible things like my income. It's not something woo-woo where it's like, yeah, just sit there and manifest and things are going to happen. It's like, no, I'm noticing it through doing shadow work and through shifting my emotional signature and through starting to reprogram the nervous system, more so deconditioning the nervous system and being able to interpret different segments of reality is allowing me to tap into a different way of being. I'm a lot less stressed, spending a lot more money, having a lot more fun. I'm having the capacity because my mind is not occupied with scarcity and the need to make money. And it's not like I have, like a safety net that I can fall back into. It's like, no, this sense of safety that I've created in my nervous system that is allowing me to show up in a way, way stronger way, better way, more integrated way, is created by me, not because I have some insane number of savings in my bank or whatever and I can just fall back on my safety net, right? It's a choice that I make. And so this is the 90% that creates the results. Well, the strategy is really, really important. I'm not one to throw out the baby with the bathwater. The strategy is really, really important. But if you're at a stage where you're like, I really want to grow, and you can feel it, you can feel like, okay, there's something blocking that thing from happening to me, then it's all about shifting the emotional signature. And I've noticed this with a client of mine that came to me that was complicating things so much. They're really good at marketing, really good at sales, offer creation, messaging, all that stuff, and they were not producing the results that are in line with the level of skill. It's like, yeah, you're really, really skilled at what you do, so why are your results not up to par when there's other people that barely know 20% of what you know and they're still getting better results? Like, what's going on there? So we sat down and I'm like, dude, you're complicating things. Like, very much. Do you know why? And then we tapped into it, and the first few calls he was really, really stressed. The first 1 or 2 calls, stressed, frantic, all over the place, speaking really quickly, like, we need to do this, we need to do. I'm like, you need to do nothing, just chill, relax. Here's what we're gonna start doing. And we started working on simplifying the strategy, simplifying the business model, because once again, it's not like these things are separate. Strategy and the internal work are one and the other. So we started working on the two things together, simplifying the business model very, very much. We had to reduce the amount of team members as well. They have a lot less team members right now, higher profit margins. They, at the moment, their volume of calls and the results they're generating is, to them, never happened before. And things changed in the process. Like how many people show up on the calls, how complicated the appointment setting process is. All of the strategic stuff changed. And the last call we had, we jumped on, and that guy was so calm, so relaxed, things are going well. There is trust that things are working. And now it's about holding that emotional signature, creating that imprint into the nervous system, and eventually that becomes the norm, the neutral, right? This is the work that produces the results that you want. And not only this is the work that produces the results that you want, this is the work that actually gets you to the version of reality that you imagine when you close your eyes. Because we've all done it. I had a vision board since day one. But the vision board was never just about the number. It was about all the feelings that accompany the number. But if I'm building my business in a way that is just producing more stress, it's like the more the income is going to grow, the more stressed I'm going to be. So of course I'm going to have resistance to growing. Of course I'm not going to want to build and work hard and stuff, because I know what this is going to lead me to. Intuitively, I know that the way I'm doing things is only going to produce more stress. So what? I'm going to have like, and it happened to me. I got to a point where I was making so much money, but I felt like crap. I felt the worst when I was making the most amount of money. And it's like, this is the work that is missing. That when you get to a point where you're making a particular level of income, one, it stabilizes, so you're not having inconsistent months. But the other thing is that the emotional signature that you imagine when you close your eyes is actually available to you. So you're not rich and miserable. You're not rich and stressed. You're not rich and working all day. This is how you get there, okay? I'm gonna be creating a lot more videos surrounding this topic in addition to strategy as well. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments, what you think. If you want me to go deeper, if you have any questions specifically about things, these are new concepts that I'm introducing into my world. So let me know if you're familiar with them or not as well, to see where I can go deeper or what I can explain better to you. But I really wanted to make this video because I'm starting to notice these changes in my life, starting to introduce them to clients and noticing how it impacts their results and the amount of money that ends up in the bank, and how simpler everything gets. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.